brushes in Adobe Fresco tonight. So if you have an iPad, you can download Adobe Fresco. It's not very expensive. And get a subscription and get a stylus, an iPencil to go with your iPad. And you can make amazing drawings with just that program that can be printed. I've actually printed them on canvas and put them in a show and sold them. So it's really easy to create a drawing. You just have to learn how to use all the different brushes. So I'm just going to do a demo on how to do that. And I'm going to start with I'm going to do this really simple flower drawing. I'll start with a vector brush and a simple line drawing, and then I use the bucket to fill it. And then I can switch colors and do the same thing. Use a vector brush, which is right here with the brush next to it, and it's got like a triangle shape. Now I could use the bucket to fill this in, or I could just draw it in. Okay, that's a really simple vector flower. So let's do another vector flower. Go back to the orange color, and I'll do the outline just like I did the other one. And then I'll fill it in. And then I'm going to add a lighter color. Notice I'm getting a palette down here. So I'm going to go a little bit this direction with the color and do another layer right here. Oops, I still have the bucket by accident. So I hit the back button. I filled that by accident with my bucket. So now I'm going to go back and get the vector brush like I had before and do my simple lines. And then I'll get the bucket and fill the inside of that. And then go grab the bright yellow, go back to the vector brush, and do the center. Okay, so those are some pretty simple basic with vector. And now I'm going to start with the vector again, because it's the simplest, cleanest. We'll stay with the same orange, but we're going to add, after I get this base done, we're going to add watercolor next. And watercolor on here is almost as hard to use as watercolor on regular paper. But you have a back button, so it makes it easier. Always makes it easier when you have a back button. Okay, so that's the vector base. Now I'm going to go up here to the wet brush. And I don't know if you can, if I bring this up here, if you can see, this is the vector brush. This is the wet brush. That's also brushes, but they're more like charcoal pens or pencils and things like that. This is watercolor and oil color. And sorry about the cracked screen. I'm about to buy a new iPad, but I'm working with what I got at the moment. So next I'm going to go to the watercolor, and we're going to do a watercolor. I'll go to this lighter orange, and we'll hope that the watercolor will show up. Now, before I get going with the watercolor, this was a vector layer, and when I press on with my pen on here with the watercolor, I bet we'll see that another box will pop up here. These are your layers. So let's see what happens. Oh yeah, it said no, you can't put watercolor on a vector layer. I'm gonna hit the back button because I don't want a brush quite that big. I want a really small brush. And that's okay. I don't need it to be on the same layer. See, it did it again. It can be on its own layer, that's fine. As long as it's going where I want it to go and it's looking the way I want it to look, I'm fine with that being on a separate layer. there's something interesting you can do when things are on a separate layer. And that is I can go over here and press this crosshairs, and it's picks up everything, and I can actually now move it. But I'm going to put it right back where it was. And done. And now we want to add a bright yellow center to that. See, I'm still up here on this layer. I'm still on watercolor, so it stays on that watercolor layer. And I'm just going to add a nice bright yellow center. So something I can do right now with one of the tools that's really easy. It has a downside that I can show you later, but for right now, I'm just going to show you how cool it is to grab the eraser. And I'm using a pretty small eraser, and I'm just going to tap. And it now shows through to the layer below. Now I'm going to take that layer that I had, that's the watercolor layer, and I'm going to merge it down so it makes it kind of like permanent. I can't move it anymore unless I move all the flowers, and there's more limitations once I merge them. But I'm going to use the eraser button again, and you'll notice what happens is it actually goes white. And I'm actually, this was the downside of the eraser, is I'm actually going all the way through to the background, which is, it's okay though. There's a way to deal with that later, but you can see it highlights it a little bit by adding the white on there. Okay, let's go to the next brush, which will be all watercolors. And just, I noticed a few people have joined now. I'm just showing basic brushes on Adobe Fresco. If you have an iPad and you add a stylus to it and you download the Adobe Fresco program, it's one of the easiest paint programs that I've ever used and the most effective. But it, you know, it takes a little bit of work, and just learning these basic brushes is really important. But I've actually produced paintings on digitally like this and then had them printed at my local print shop on a piece of canvas and sold them in a show. So it's amazing what you can do with this tool. Okay, so back to the watercolor. We're going to do an all watercolor flower now. So I'm going to go choose my color. Whoops. Choose my orange color. How big is that? Do I actually have watercolor? Okay, let's make sure. This is a wet brush I've chosen. I definitely have watercolor. I have watercolor soft wash. Just had to double check that. Okay, here we go. Oh, I love watercolor. There's one petal. Gets quiet. I am going to read a couple comments here, and then I'm going to do the yellow center. Okay. Thanks. So glad somebody just subscribed. Oh, I love it. I appreciate it very much. Okay, so I think I'm gonna, before I do the yellow center, I'm gonna go get that lighter orange color and see if we can't highlight the center. Did I choose it? I did. I wonder, oh, that's interesting. It's not going very light. I wonder if I had the wrong color to begin with. Choosing the darker orange. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, what's kind of cool about this program is they've done such a good job with the digital brushes that they act like things in real life, and it does things you don't expect sometimes. It's like, wait, I thought I was going to do something different than that. So I'm going to go even lighter and see if I can create that. There we go. I'm getting a little bit more of a, there we go, a lighter center. Now I'm going to go back and get the yellow and do a nice yellow center. Now I'm going to go and use that brush. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so one more brush. I want to show you the oil paints next. So I'm going over here. I'm going to zoom in and move this over here so you can actually see what I'm looking at. When I go to the wet brushes, at first it just shows me the color and I'm like, well, what actual brush do I have? So you tap on the little corner thing and then it shows you you've got live brushes. Oh, I'm in the watercolors. I don't want to be in the watercolors. So I see here I've got an arrow next to watercolor and I can go down to oil. I have 7 brushes in the oil and I want to choose the oil paint short. It's my favorite all-time brush. And we're going to choose that orange color again. And I'm going to do the, oops, the last one right over here. Oops, let me get my zoom back out. Get everything where it's supposed to be. Here we go. Right there. I hope I filmed that okay. I hope you were able to see it. Got my orange. All right, so I've got my oil paint short. And now I'm going to go get the lighter orange right there. And you can see it goes on really light, but I'll show you what happens when I start pushing it around. It picks up the darker orange and really blends. But when I tap, 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 it puts more color on of the color I've chosen. And then only when I hold it down and move it around the other color does it start to blend. Love this brush. It's so amazing. A little more yellow. Okay. Then if you want to clean up the edges, the eraser is quite awesome for that. I mean, you don't have to. It depends on what you're trying to achieve, but I'm just going to show you if you clean it up what it would look like. Okay, so now we need a nice yellow center. Going back to my oil paints, and I'm going to use that bright yellow. See what happens is it muds right in with the orange and it gets very orangey the longer I keep my pen down. So here, if I keep tapping, the color stays bright, and then I can blend it if I want to a little bit. And then I can make the size of this brush smaller, and I can choose white. But I think I'm going to show you what happens. It doesn't show up very well because this oil paint short brush is a blending brush. So I'm going to go back. I'm still on wet brushes. I'm still on oil, but I'm going to choose an oil paint flat and see the difference. Oh, make it a little bit bigger so you can actually see it. It doesn't blend, and it does the nice dots that I was trying to do. Okay, so there's a vector, another vector, a vector and a watercolor, an all watercolor, and an all oil. And of course you can mix all of these together. I could go back and I could put watercolor on top of my oil, which works a lot better in digital than it would in real life. But it's just a matter of experimenting, constant experimenting, honestly. So these are all nicely on the same layer. And I want to actually have these, I'm going to turn this into a painting, or I mean an actual picture, rather than just a demo. And so I'm going to show you how I can do that by using a couple other really cool tools. There's either a lasso button or lasso tool if I want to just move one of these flowers. So I just lassoed it, and now I'm going to hit the transform here, and I'll just move it a little bit. And then I'll hit done up here in the corner and deselect. So there's a lot of buttons and you have to figure out where they are. You know, all I can tell you is that there are lessons online. Whoops. Let's go back. There's lessons online. There, Adobe has lessons, and I honestly I end up just playing and playing and playing. I don't know why this wants to keep turning off. Oops, just a moment. Sorry for the delay. Okay, here we are. Okay, so over here, there's also a transform button, and it chooses everything. And so what I want to do is I just want to make these smaller and move them over here and hit done. I notice I have a little orange dot right there, so I'll grab my eraser and erase that. Now I'm going to start playing over here with layers, these little boxes here, and the way that just to make sure you can see it, the way that it keeps wanting to shut off for some reason. I'm not sure why. I've got it plugged in. So I'm going to add a layer. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Hi, Marcus. Hi, RC. Who else do we have on here? Salola Brasa. Oops. And okay, thanks for the compliments. Love subscriptions. I try and get on here every once in a while and do a live. Now I'm going to go and I've got that layer added, and I want that layer to go underneath right there. So when I choose to do stems, I'm going to go back to, I'll just go to a vector brush, and I am going say a plain vector brush, round, and I'll choose a nice strong green. And I'm just, because this layer is here and the flowers are up there, I can go like this, and you're not even gonna see it on top of the flower. It's going underneath the flower. And I'm just taking these stems all the way to the corner. And then, and let me show you what happens if I move that layer up here. So I just move the layer up. All of a sudden that, you know, we don't want that. But that shows you where I actually started all those strokes. Now let's move that layer back underneath. Voila. And I'm going to add one more layer because just in case, I like the stems, I like the flowers, so I'm going to leave them. I want to save them. Now I'm going to experiment with some more green. I'm going to switch to the wet brush and we'll try let's see, which wet brush do I want? I'll go with the oil paint short. I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger than it was before, make it pretty big. And I'm just going to start sweeping. Oh, that's not nearly as big as I want. I'm going to make it as big as possible. Really big. Whoa. Okay, now I've got it way too big. Bring it down. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with a little bit different color. Let's go to a really light green. Oh, that's right. Remember how it blends from that flower. See how it's just blending in? So what I'll do, because I want it to stand out, is I'll make another layer right on top of it. And now watch. Oh, yay. Now you can see it. Okay, and then just because I'm going to go all the way back here to this layer that the stems are on, because I want it to be in the background. I'm going to go back and choose my vector brush, and I'll go get that green I had before, and I just want to add some little bit of stylized lines in here, just because I can't help myself. I love doing curls. So there we go. And now we need a background. So I'm going to add one more layer, and I'm going to move that layer all the way behind the stems, behind the grass, behind the flowers. And I think I'm going to go ahead and choose a blue, probably not that dark to start with. I'll go a little lighter here. And I'm going to use that oil paint brush again, really huge. I kind of liked how that looked. Just going to paint the whole thing, this light blue in the background. So now I'm going to use a little bit darker, and I want to make sure that I want this to be really kind of like a dry brush. So notice how that goes super dense. Looking at this square right here, I can slide that down, make it not so dense, and it's going to give me, oops, I got to go to a darker blue color. You'll start to see, and it blends because I'm on the same, and that's okay with me. I kind of want it to blend. And that's pretty much it. That's all I was going to show you tonight. I hope that you found this helpful. If you're thinking about creating paintings on your iPad, you definitely can do it. Just get yourself a stylus, get the Adobe Fresco program. Oh, let me show you something really cool before I wonder if I can do this. It actually recorded everything I did, and it's going to make a video of this. And I don't know if I'll be able to show you, but let's see if I can. Publish and export. So I'm going to go over here. It's got a time lapse export. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to tell it to export. And I'm just going to save the video. Export complete. We'll see. Okay, I'm just going to go like this, go to my photos, and There we go. Let's see if it did it. It did. It's got everything. It's got a whole record of everything that I did. And I actually have taken these and I turn them into, like, I also use another video program, a digital program called Filmmaker Pro on my phone. So what I'll do is I'll send that video over to my phone, and then I just start cutting and pasting and splitting and editing in this little program called Filmmaker Pro, and I do pretty artistic shorts with it. So they're like little tiny mini films of art. They're art films. And it's fun. I just enjoy doing it. And so you can, if you subscribe to my page, you can go into my page and don't look under videos, look under shorts, and you'll find a whole bunch that I've done in the last 6 weeks, artistic videos. And I've done most of them. You'll see it. I think you'll see a couple that I'm actually painting on paper, but most of what I do is on this Adobe Fresco program on the Adobe or on the iPad. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to read comments before I leave. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the. Okay, so the app, Brittany, in case you're still here, is Adobe Fresco. And you can use Adobe Fresco on an iPad. I think you can use, I know you can use it also if you have a touch screen computer, you should be able to use it. If you don't have a touch screen computer and you don't want to spend the money on iPad, there's actually another way to do it, and that is to get a Wacom tablet that plugs into your computer. They're way less expensive than an iPad. I'm not as happy with the stylus on it, but I did use that for a while, and it worked for me for a long time. Then I started having trouble with my stylus, so it could be I just needed to replace my stylus. But Wacom tablet is something you can use with your computer. It's an accessory to a computer, and it acts a lot like this screen right here. It's very, very similar as the iPad. This is a little more convenient because it's got a little bit more finger action. On the Wacom tablet, you just use the pen, you don't use the finger and the pen. So I'm spoiled by the iPad, but the other one's pretty amazing too. Okay, I hope that helps. And I hope to see you the next time I do a live. Bye-bye.